Hey guys, thank you for posting your questions. I've got two here. Actually, one that I got in between services, and then one that got sent in. And so I'm looking to see if another one came in really quickly. But the one I got sent in was, especially in a marriage, it said, how in a marriage can you best express unfailing love? Does it require you to, I believe the two words were, well, basically like, be walked over like a doormat, I think the words were, and really kind of, put yourself in danger. And so I'll just carefully kind of share. The reality is this, is that, when we talk about this picture of sort of mutual submission, and we talk this picture of love and respect, we're picturing a Christian marriage where ideas and values are the same. We're picturing that together in such a way that allows people to, now both may not be walking with Christ fully at the same way, same time, but usually in a case like that, usually just one person has to start the circle back in terms of loving and respecting. There's a great book called Love and Respect that talks about this. But if you're in a household where values are extraordinarily different in terms of one's a Christian, one's not, then those are not necessarily the verses to try to immediately follow in terms of mutual submission, because you're not going to necessarily receive that. There's other verses in there that talk in terms of the Bible that give us direction in terms of a house divided and how to handle those things. And so I want to be careful to make people understand, I don't think you should put yourself in danger, although ultimately I think sometimes we exercise that a little differently than I think God would. I think if our hands are in His hands, if our lives are in His hands, that we should be trusting Him with our life. I don't think that it's foolish to stay in a home where you feel like certain things are very uncomfortable, but I definitely don't think people should put themselves in danger. As in being a doormat or getting walked on, I feel like sometimes we just feel we take things so personally that we have no choice but to feel like we're being abused. And I think counseling is one of the best ways to get a third person in on the conversation as to whether or not that's really abuse. I think a lot of times abusive language in a home is because two people are talking and no one's listening. And sometimes a third person, a counselor, just helps that. Just helps a conversation go, well, they're not saying that to you. Why in the world would you be hearing that? Does that make sense? So I'm hoping that kind of helps that person answer that question. One I got in between services had to do with actually our partner night, and it had to do with Sabbath rest. This past partner night, we talked about Sabbath and talked about what that looked like. And so their comment was, when I get quiet and, that Sabbath time comes, my brain just goes crazy with like to-do lists, like things I need to do. And I said, you know what, my brain does the exact same thing. And so what I do is I keep a kind of a sheet of paper or a journal, or sometimes I use my phone. I have a program on there with to-do lists. And usually when I think of something, I write it down immediately. And yeah, I know that sounds weird because you're sort of creating to-do lists or creating task items, but here's the way I view it. When you're trying to rest and really trying to kind of cease and stop striving, the best thing sometimes to do is just acknowledge that thought's there, get it out of your brain as fast as possible, and then be done with it. You can always add it to a to-do list for the rest of your week. I don't think you should be thinking about how to do that right there. So I think there's some ways around that. Find what works best for you, and that'll work. So thank you guys for posting your questions and sending those in. We look forward to answering those every single week, and we'll see you next time. Thanks, guys.